I am the Hermitess, just a spiritually awakening being who wants to package what I've been through, but not quite within the context of any system of my own. What I'm really trying to do here is connect everything together. What I really need, and what I think a lot of people really need right now, is coherence. I view myself as a connector, or I see it as almost a weaver. There's this image around the internet of women's hands weaving the world, weaving the quantum strings of our being, I believe. And that's how I see it. So I want to piggyback a little bit on all of my favorite YouTube content creators and just showcase their material with my twists almost. Because there's some degree of deviation for me when it comes to any school of thought, any system, and I think that's just normal. I think existence is tailored to each and every one of us. One teacher that I think is really doing it well right now is Sarah Elkhaldy, who calls herself the Alchemist. I want to follow along with her videos and expound with my own experiences, because I have a really hard time doing something like she does, packaging information in a easily digestible manner. I am much more feminine and rambling and anecdotal, and I can't escape that. So it helps me to have a structure provided by somebody else. Also, the beauty of what's happening right now with so many different people waking up in different ways is the process of connecting our experiences. I just drew this card. This is how I see what's happening now with all of the awakening individuals. It's really neat because I pulled it. Well, I draw a number. So I drew the number 19. And these two cards are very similar. This is what we need, is more content of a soothing nature. I think we do need to bring more of the feminine into the presentation of all of this stuff, because while the mind wants to be satisfied, we all want a more technical explanation of what's going on. Sarah excels at that. But then bringing it down to the human level is a real challenge, and I feel like that's something I can really do. So the first lesson of Sarah School, she presents in a video she titled Ancient Activation, the 2 most important questions during a spiritual awakening.
Why would I create this? How is this serving me?
Some may say these questions sound a little egocentric. I think the truth of the matter, and I'm so glad that she addressed this at the end of this video, is that solipsism is an aspect of this reality. And it is a perception that we will have as we are spiritually awakening, because we are awakening to specifically the experience of oneness and realizing that every other consciousness is connected to our consciousness and playing its role in our life, in our story. Sarah says, at the very root of what we are, our core, our essence, is a creator being. We carry a seed of the divine in us, and we have immense power. And that of itself is a very scary realization, unless maybe you are eager to assume much of that power, in which case we have the dark arts, which a lot of people confuse with esoteric knowledge and wisdom, but it's only dark if you use it for dark. A part of me really believes that the only reason there is a dark art is secrecy. If we shared all of these secrets, if we made them open, then there would be no darkness. It's the same concept as shining the light of consciousness into the dark, which enlightens it and you and the world. So in a way, religion is the dark art, promoting secrecy, promoting suppression of illumination in the individual. Sarah says that's what we do. We access different versions of reality by putting infinity into a box. We put infinity into a box so that there is an objective reality at work with its own rules and its own limitations. We create our experience within the governing laws and principles of the box that we have chosen. The box that we have all chosen, that we call the third dimension, is really a sphere. There's no such thing as a straight line. So here's where I really depart from most people. I'm definitely interested in the technical, the mechanism behind this reality. Like, how is this real? How is it both so real and such an illusion at the same time? But I also very quickly and very easily slip into the perspective that it is simply all imagination and the technicals don't matter. I've had some very vivid hallucinations of the imaginal realm being so real in this present life, like a real delusion where the intention was more real than the technical. The physical reality only scrambled some kind of solution together to portray whatever was trying to play out in the divine imagination. Gosh, it's very hard to explain. That's part of why I want to do this channel, because there's so much that happens, and how do we explain this? So, the intention, the imagination, the story that wants to be told is what is real. What scrambles onto the stage, that is the third dimension, is just what can be cobbled together to make the play. So the more technical an explanation gets, the more it is like a real rabbit hole. Because it's not real. Like, the explanation isn't real. None of the explanations will make sense. It's like science needs just one miracle and it can explain the rest. Like, the Big Bang is no explanation. Anyway, Sarah's video is much more about sovereignty in our co-creation. So we have to make the assumption that whatever is going on around us, no matter how forceful and intense, as Sarah put it, it's a product of our own desire for whatever we are creating with our life. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? We have to ask, why did I create this for myself? What good am I expecting to come from this? What lesson am I supposed to be learning? We have to come from a place of assuming responsibility for what is going on, because that's the only way to obtain spiritual sovereignty. Sarah says, we want to establish the feedback loop of being in a position to shape our environment. We want to establish our creative control. If this is your set, sit in that chair that says director and direct. this has been the scariest part of it for me. I am an observer. I'm very yin. I want to attract experiences to me. I find it very difficult to make something happen for myself. I also don't like the limelight. This is about the millionth YouTube channel idea that I've had, and along with my 2 other 19 cards, I've got these 2. Venus happens to be in Pisces right now, which is cool. And then this one, commitment. So I am committing to this channel idea, and whatever shall be, shall be. We don't have to be perfect to create. We just have to do it. Part of the beauty of the 3rd dimension and duality is the adoration that fucking things up can bring about. I think affection is really born of imperfection. And that is something I have yet to really hear from all of the spiritual teachers and gurus and channels out there. I have yet for it to be brought down to this really well-grounded human heart level where it feels well understood that not only are we here for a reason, a purpose, a big mission, but we're also here for no real reason, no big purpose, no big grandiose mission. We are just here to love and spread warmth and affection and return to innocence. My friend just sent me these flowers, and I thought it was amazing that she chose these because I've been studying the tarot, and all throughout the tarot are white lilies and, well, red roses, but they could easily be red carnations. And they symbolize, for the red flowers, passion, and for the white lilies, purity. And I think getting back to these 2 simple things is a major part of the process of spiritual awakening. While I am so grateful for as much technical information as I can get about these processes, about alchemy, about what's really happening during intense experiences, I'm also in dire need of really embodying it in that feminine way. There's some quote about like letting your soft, warm animal body love what it loves. We're missing a lot of the animal in our spirituality. We take various forms of wisdom from the animal kingdom, but I think in even our relating, in our fear of intimacy, in our banishment of Venusian principles. It also happens to be Valentine's Day today. Go figure. That's a coincidence. Yeah, our little infinity in a box is just pretty bare bones right now.
No romance, no romance, no romance.
Or like this clear glass jar with no flowers in it. So looking around at everything going on, this mass collapse of meaning and the lack of hope for the flowers, I have to ask, why would I create this? I'm a Libra with my moon in Cancer. Why the hell would I create all this? Is it just contrast? I'm ready for it to be done. How is all of this lack of romance, lack of vitality, lack of passion, lack of purity. How is this serving me? Well, I also have my Venus in Scorpio, so I have a feeling I've got some lessons that I'm learning. And the distance from all of those things, from romance especially, has been really good for me. I've had my precious... I've had my utopian visions. I've had all of that. And it's been very humbling to watch all of those balloons get shot down by... I discovered Sarah Elkhaldy at a very important time where mystical experiences were happening to me constantly. My favorite moment was her video about jumping timelines came out like at the exact moment that I felt that I had jumped a timeline in a very obvious perceptual way. It's as though the whole room flipped 180 degrees and then I slowly adjusted in the quantum field to the new pole shift. It felt like the pole shifted that day. And that's one thing Sarah says also. A more esoteric and deliberate reason to ask the question, why would I create this? Is that it automatically shifts you into a new timeline where you are not at the mercy of unseen forces. Your environment responds to you instead of you responding to it. Even if its response is so subtle that you don't perceive it, asking this question and knowing the reality behind it gives you the spiritual sovereignty and confidence, the reassurance to know that all will be well no matter what.
This is activating our higher consciousness by recognizing the advantage in any given scenario, even if it looks like it's straight out of the Hunger Games. The soul's journey is one of the hardest concepts to understand in the third dimension. But one way to start doing so is by becoming aware of what is being learned at any given time. When we do this, we are moving with universal consciousness. So we are being transformed ultimately for the better, and our external conditions are playing out whatever is required in order for that to take place.
Even if there were some kind of earthly cataclysm and bodily, we all die. Much of my spiritual experience, my mystical experiences, have been teaching me comfort with death. I've got a lot to say about that, and now is not the time, but believe you me, there is no reason to fear bodily death. A few other things I want to mention about Sarah's video. She says, choosing not to create your own reality places you under the default settings of the third dimension, which are undesirable. So a quote that she gives for us to ask the universe if we're not feeling so sovereign or feeling so acquainted with this idea is, I am ready to accept the power which you were kindly hanging on to for me. The universe wants us to step into our power. Step into my lap. Just like this, when we're crying, the universe is like, come on, get up in my lap. And we're like, I am unworthy, I'm whatever the excuses that we make are, they are illegitimate. We are in a collective experience made to make us believe that we have no power and everything is already set in stone. And this is what we wake up from during a spiritual awakening. The questions, why would I create this? And how is this serving me? Reroute our emotional energy in the direction of awareness. So instead of our emotions being caught up in, why do I deserve this? What good can I create? All of the negative downward spiral of the emotional scale flips upward when you start asking the question from a seat of power, even the tiniest one. You being a creator does not mean you are God. It means you are one little fractal, one pixel of the whole picture, which happens to take up 100% of your view. So your power is in your subjective experience, all of the power that you wield to create the best life for yourself and everyone who touches you. That is what you have control over. None of us really have to be concerned about the whole world at large. It's beyond our scope. We're supposed to have it in mind. We belong to this whole. But the whole is not our sphere of influence, except through the mirroring of the micro and the macro. So to heal yourself is to heal the world. But you really have to focus on your small pixel. I call it cleaning up your fractals. Every little thing that you do causes fractals to spin out. It's almost like angel. The word angel is commonly misspelled as angle. And I've seen that as a literal, it's a real confusion because I think that's what's happening. All of our angelic moves through life cause angelic angles, sacred geometry to form in our wake. But all of our little schizophrenic, fragmented, demonic moves through life leave a wake of destruction and spin out scraggly little shards that cut people. In other words, hurt people hurt people. So the top priority is know thyself, heal thyself, assume your spiritual power. And that can be very hard to do when you don't understand what spiritual means if you've never had a spiritual experience. I think the closest a lot of us get to a spiritual experience is love, specifically romantic love, or even drugs. Back to Sarah. She says that what we see in our collective reality is the sum total of what is left unresolved in the collective unconscious. So the collective is in spiritual amnesia, with no awareness of our true identity as spiritual beings, or how reality is created in the first place. The Big Bang, I don't know. This of itself is a danger, this ignorance. But it's also hard to prove anything beyond ignorance, because the way we know things spiritually is entirely through experience, intuition, and just knowing. But I promise you, if you start to approach life with these concepts, with this quote, that you're ready to accept the power which the universe was kindly hanging on to for you. Assume that you are eternal, you are multidimensional, that you came here to create something, and just start creating it. Follow your bliss, follow your curiosity, follow whatever pulls your emotions into a higher state, whatever pulls you into higher love. And the best we can do is prove these things to ourselves and then share. There will never be evidence. Actually, to me, my whole life, I've seen the evidence of spiritual reality and been gaslit by those operating solely out of the linear dimension, the third dimension, whatever you want to call it, third density. The thing is, there's no proving from one level of consciousness to another that it exists. The higher cannot prove to the lower that it exists. The lower has to prove the existence of the higher to itself. And in essence, when the lower is proving the higher to itself, it is also creating the higher. It is creating its own path forward through the cosmos and through the densities, through the dimensions. Eventually, you'll understand what I mean, but even through time. I saw this ad for a class of Eckhart Tolle's about how to become a teacher of presence. And I was like, that's such a great term. That's kind of like what I want to be. I want to be a teacher of presence. But I also kind of want to talk about time travel, which sounds like the opposite of presence. Everywhere, all at onceness. That's the real mystical experience of higher consciousness, is not just the mind being everywhere all at once, like the nihilistic concept of just everything in the kitchen sink in a dumpster that's on fire, or everything on a bagel. It's not like that, because it's not just through the square of the mind. It is through the prism of the mind plus the heart. To me, nihilism really only takes place on these little rectangles that we call screens. It's a very two-dimensional way of looking at life, and it keeps us trapped. I say that it doesn't even keep us trapped in the third dimension. We're trapped in the second dimension with nihilism through media. The prism, the real illumination. I actually see it as an inverted triangle, but so that like it's narrower down here and then it goes whoosh. So everyone in like the Illuminati and whatever who thinks they're at the top, they're actually at the bottom. They just don't know it. Like when everything inverted reverts to its real form and real dimensions, they will find themselves in the tippity bottom. Anyway, so we don't have to worry about them. I want to finish up here with a few comments on Sarah's video. In the comments, Saskia says, "Wow, nothing is really real. All there is me. And because I'm scared of myself, I'm living disempowered." That hit me hard. Just scared of your own greatness, scared of your own betterment, the responsibility or the pressure, or even just the fear of changing in front of the eyes of people you know well, people who know you as being a certain way, who might feel that they don't like the changes you're making. It is a much bigger burden than we tend to talk about in the spiritual communities, just to change, to make changes in consideration of other people. Another comment by Disciple 111. He says, or she, I don't know, "Trance is key. Learn to identify different states of awareness by entering and exiting them until they become familiar. Do not use them until you place your higher mind in charge of the process of exploration. The conscious mind developing an intention, which must be stated in a positive way, seeing the solution, not defining a problem." So you're not ever trying to get away from something. You are trying to move toward something, and you want to define what it is you're moving toward, both in words and in feeling. This is more Abraham Hicks level, like you need to feel it, or Neville Goddard. Feel into your future. That's the real way that it connects. Like if you think of that prism here, it starts at the heart. That's where it's all coming from. The heart uses the matrix of the mind to create the full picture out here. I think this is so important that they said trance is key, because we have to learn to be in these altered states.
Turn your mind over to your own.
And then we have to integrate the bizarreness of the altered state into the third dimension reality, into our external world, in our life. That's a project that has taken me years and years, and I still don't feel I've gotten it right. And just be ready for your expression throughout your spiritual awakening to be straight up annoying. to yourself and to others. It's going to be a growing process. All the pain, all the awkwardness, all the people coming and going, all the shifting of perspective of yourself and others. You're going to go through all of it. It's going to be wacky. It's going to be wild. It's going to be fun. Please don't forget that this is all supposed to be fun. Warmth, fun, joy, comfort. These are things that are not yet present in the conversation, and I need them to be. So if you're feeling the same way, this channel is for you. I'm out of battery life, so what a perfect time to end my first video. Again, I'm the Hermitess, and thank you for watching.